Going to be talking about the next shelf of books. So as you can see, I've got an empty shelf back there. So that means I've got the books here with me. I'm sorry I missed last Saturday, but being behind on everything else, I figured I'll get to this, and we'll see what else I get to this weekend. So we're picking up in the H's, and we kick off with one of the biggest books that we've seen so far. That is Battlefield Earth by L. Ron Hubbard. I haven't read anything by L. Ron Hubbard. I'm not even sure if this one's going to be worth it. It is 1,066 pages long. So this is a March of the Mammoth. If I'm still feeling in a sci-fi mood, maybe I should make this my March of the Mammoth and just try to finally get this one done. Because, you see it all over the place. And I probably should get around to it eventually. I also have an ebook of it. So, I can double dip in that. Next, we have The Long Mind by Edward R. Hughes. Born charmers were born to hang. He was a charming bastard. Okay. That's kind of interesting. We have The Big Lifters by Dean Ing. So this is author of Wild Country. An old-fashioned kind of science fiction tale told in a way that makes it timeless. Sometimes it's fun to see what people have to say to try to promote it. And speaking of Wild Country, here we go. Dean Ing, Wild Country. Author of Single Combat. I don't think I have Single Combat. That would have been funny if I would have then gone to Single Combat. So this is a stunning conclusion to the magnificent saga by the author of Single Combat. Those are the only two Dean Ing books that I have, so let's see. 4 books by Dean Ing, Single Combat, Wild Country. So this must be book 2, bringing the magnificent saga to its end. I don't know, Steve Donahue or Mark Richardson or somebody can probably tell me exactly how many books are in there and if they're worth reading. We've got Solar Kill by Charles Ingrid. Again, I don't know anything about most of these because these were eBay sci-fi box. This is book 1 of the Sand Wars. Nice cut off part up there. He was the last Dominion knight, and he would challenge a star empire to gain his revenge. That sounds interesting to me. We'll see if it's any good. We have Armada by Michael John. Came toward the Earth at the speed of light, and nothing could stop it. The year 1995. So, we didn't face an armada that I'm aware of in 1995. We have The Best of John Jakes. So this is, millions of Americans have discovered that John Jakes is one of the best. It's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 books, or 10 stories in here, and then a bibliography, which is really interesting to have a bibliography in there, which is a multi-page bibliography, just packed full of what he's written. So, yeah, finest sci-fi stories. Then we've got Mindhopper by James B. Johnson. Manny had the power and the government wanted it now. We have The Alien by Raymond F. Jones, classic of science fiction. 500,000 years after the total extinction of his race, one man can be brought back to life. He is the alien. This is a really short one. This controversial and startling book is regarded as a classic achievement of science fiction. You should probably read it. We have Rebellion War Strider by William H. Keith Jr. I like that cover. It's kind of a really interesting cover there. We have In Solitary by Gary Kilworth. A future in chains, a woman in need, a man in revolt. Maybe this is more fantasy than sci-fi. It's always hard because Like some of them will tell you on the side what kind of a genre they are. I guess I had always thrown this over with the sci-fi, but based on that cover and what it is, it sounds almost more like fantasy. But I mean that right there looks nice and sci-fi. Either way, I'll read it eventually. It's another short one. We have Damon Knight in Deep. So this is 8 startling stories by one of America's finest science fiction writers. Good one to keep in my pocket for New Worlds November this year. A Mile Beyond the Moon by C.M. Kornbluth. These stories have helped to set the highest standards of modern science fiction. We've got some stories here. Good couple of stories. We have An Alien Light by Nancy Kress, Nebula Award winner right there. I don't think the book itself is a Nebula Award winner, but the author is. Alternities by Michael P. Cube McDowell. He's been blurbed on here by Orson Scott Card, so I mean that's something. The Ring of Truth by David L. J. Lake. And again, like I mentioned there, it tells me science fiction on the side. So that's why it's on science fiction, even though based on the title and that cover, I probably would have put it as fantasy. I guess it starts off with our cosmos for the back. We have one that I definitely need to read, Ursula K. Le Guin, The Left Hand of Darkness. No, I haven't read it yet. Wordbringer by Edward Lewin. Lewellen. So, Wordbringer. It came from the stars bearing a message for humanity, a message that could bring salvation or doom. So many nice short works. And again, this is one that I probably would have categorized as fantasy if it didn't say right here on the side, science fiction. That's The Many-Colored Land by Julian May. Spellbinding tale woven of equal parts epic and myth with a liberal dash of hard science fiction. Wonderful. This is volume 1 of the saga of the Pliocene exile. Volume 1? Well, what about volume 2? The Golden Torque. Well, but if we've got volume 2, then why not volume 3? The Non-Born King. And, well, let's just say that we have also volume 4, The Adversary. I don't know if there's more than the 4 in that series, but I do have all 4 volumes that I'm aware of. Eventually I need to read that series. And then one that I don't have all the books of, Julian May, this is Diamond Mask. This says it's book 2 of the Galactic Milieu trilogy. Book 2 doesn't help me much. And then our last Julian May over here. This is the Meta Concert, book 2 of Intervention. So I don't have book 1. But if I enjoy Julian May, I'll want to check out those trilogies. We have Life Probe by Michael Mccollum. One that most people that are familiar with sci-fi staples are going to be familiar with. A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller Jr. I think I've read this. It's been a long time. I plan to reread it if I have read it, or read it for the first time if I have not. But one that I have not read, but I want to read soon, is The Mote in God's Eye. This is book 1 of the Modi series by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle. We have Starcat World by Andre Norton. Very, very short volume here. And Dorothy Medley. Jim and Ellie Mae must rescue their cat friends from killer robots. One of the next books that I plan to pick up when I wade my way through what I'm working through is going to be Binti. by Okorafor. This is even thinner. It's a very small volume. I imagine I could probably sit down and read it in an hour, maybe two. Depends on the chaos of the house. A classic, George Orwell, 1984. Wonderful book. Haunting book at times. We have Shadows of the Empire by Steve Perry, one that I want to revisit at some point in time because I remembered absolutely loving it as a kid. First Cycle by H. Beam Piper, edited and expanded by Michael Kurland. So, interesting that it was edited and expanded by somebody else. We have Gladiator at Law by Frederick Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. So that'll be an interesting one to do. Sensational novel of the wildest coup of America's ultraviolet future. Indoctrinaire by Christopher Priest. It's kind of a nice looking cover. I like it. A couple more here. Robert Randall, The Shrouded Planet. We've got Code 3 by Rick Raphael. And then last, but certainly not least on this shelf, Mr. Davi by Kit Reed. First time in paperback. So, we have one more full shelf of sci-fi. And then a little bit bleeding down into the next one. Before we get into fantasy, which will take up about a shelf and a half. I need more fantasy. I really need to expand that out. But first things first, I've got to work my way through 75 more books. And I've got plenty of shorter sci-fi books that I can chip away at in order to get to that number. So thank you for joining me on the fourth installment of this library tour out of, I believe it was 13. Hope you're having a good day. You have a great weekend, and I will talk to you later.